Hey, yeah, let's do it. I want to sit and I just have a feeling in several of the collective readings that I've done over the previous months, I've seen how how bright Capricorn season's going to be. So we're not in Capricorn season yet, but I feel like it's necessary that we kind of sit and get familiar with the energy before before we get into the season, because there's going to be a lot that changes this Capricorn season. And so I just want to get us more familiarity and understanding, some clarity also. Because what I've been seeing in other readings is like it's the solstice, yes, and the 21st, when the sun switches into Capricorn. It's also, how do I say this? In the readings I've been seeing, it's also the brightest day. It's like every time that I've read about it, it's just this bright light that normally it's like the darkest night in the hemisphere I'm in. The 21st is the darkest night. But I've been feeling that it's going to be, how do I say? It's the brightest light. Something about the brightest light coming through. Forgiveness, forgiveness. You cannot see the influence that the previous chapter has had on you. Lots of forgiveness, lots of forgiveness. Like forgiving yourself is what I feel in this. Forgiving yourself. Oh my goodness. Forgiving yourself for things that have been done, for things that have been said, for things that have been spun, for maybe not. It's not protecting yourself, but I don't know if I can show this card actually on on the screen. But forgiveness, like forgiving yourself, not being able to see the influence that the years have had on you. And it's also too like the growing up. How have you grown up over the previous 17 years and the influence that it's had on you? And forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving yourself. And intelligence. Ooh, talk about it. That's this one I will show. That's a really interesting card. Check this out. Check that out. Look how pretty that is. She's got like, I'll put closer to each of the cameras. She has like wisdom coming out of her head, like wisdom coming out of her third eye, intelligence, institutionalized spiritual communication. Oh, interesting. Because this year we have a it's Saturn going into Aries. Saturn going into Aries with Neptune, a little spiritually schemy, if you ask me. Okay. You look up previous time periods where this has happened, and it's like secret societies and like random religious groups. And there's a bunch of like weird spiritual phenomena structures that are formed and like begin during a Saturn and a Neptune in Aries when they're together. So this one is going to be a little bit different. I have a feeling with the Capricorn season because Saturn doesn't enter Aries. When does that happen? Hold on. Saturn enters Aries May 25th. Neptune enters Aries before then. When Neptune enters Aries on the eclipse in Aries, first of all, hold on. That's crazy. That's crazy. Neptune enters Aries on the day of the eclipse in Aries, and it's going to be conjunct with a Mercury retrograde that is in Aries. That's wild. They're technically exactly conjunct in Pisces, I'm pretty sure, but it's close enough to Aries that it's still Aries. Hi to you too. Hey, have fun at work. Yeah, so interesting. So this Capricorn season is going to be not just an adjustment, but the intelligence that comes through. It's like the mind being altered, because that's what, hello to you too. Hey, the mind being altered. Saturn and Aries is structure and order of the mind. It's how we keep order and structure in our head. It's how we are sometimes blind to things in our mind, but Aries rules the head and Saturn has to do with structure and order. So it's like keeping our thoughts in order. Probably a lot of people are going to pick up meditative practices or like start a meditative or awareness practice with Saturn in Aries. And so Capricorn season, I'm always sitting in the preparation energy. And I was thinking about that. I'm thinking about that before I got on live stream because I was like, it's not Capricorn season yet. Like, do I need to do this reading right now at this time? And I was like, yeah, of course, because preparation, it's preparation time. Let's sit in the preparation work together. Also, it happens at the end of this week is when we switch over the seasons, from when I'm filming this, at least when this is being recorded. So that is crazy. So this Capricorn season, we have a lot of intelligence. That's like information, wisdom, intelligence. Because if you think about it, Pluto, if the hierarchical structures of the world. You have all these different layers of hierarchical structures, okay? And then you have Pluto in the underworld. And those hierarchical structures have been tied together with Pluto for 17 years, which means that anytime that we move through these we've had to have it rooted down here for us to have any movement. But this doesn't exist with Capricorn anymore. It's with Saturn still. They still exist together. They're still in the same system. Okay, let me be more direct and specific. And also, they are not together in the same transit. Pluto is no longer in Capricorn. So these hierarchical systems, they're free to go and do what they want without Pluto being in the underworld, really like moving and grooving. And the underworld and those systems are no longer bound together. It's just the systems working in their singularity. So there's going to be a lot of clarity, singularity, clarity. There's going to be a lot of clarity. And that's kind of that brightness, the bright light. There's a lot of fire from the nighttime, in Capricorn season. Interesting. What else do we have here? A connection to the higher self. This is also, I heard transcend, the word transcend. So like what is it to transcend? To shift into something and ascend. So like, so a shift that allows you to offer something. How interesting. To transcend. A shift that allows you to then offer. A shift that allows you to offer. That's a gift. A shift that allows you to offer. So it's like a shift during Capricorn season that then allows you to make offerings. I also see transcend as in like, it's very much rebirth energy. Normally, Capricorn, we don't associate with rebirth because Capricorn is about like, we're already born, we're already here, we're tied to things, we're bound to things, and what are we going to do with that? However, because Pluto's no longer in Capricorn, what I see is just people going through these like drastic transformations. It's like you finally kind of wake up. It's awareness, really, is what that is. You wake up with the clarity and the realization of like, I have become this person. Oh my gosh. I see people, it's very much like this younger self. It's this younger self that wanted to be something, this younger self who asked to be something around 2008 or through the Pluto and Capricorn transit, a younger self that asked for a transformation, a younger self that asked for some kind of power, especially when it comes to hierarchies. So could be jobs or different dreams within jobs or career orientation, essence of things. Also very family and ancestrally related. Capricorn rules the bones, which is where we have bone marrow. That's where like our circulatory system fluid is grown. And yes, Capricorn also rules the skin. So it's like going from the hierarchies of the bones all the way to the top. It's a very strange sort of perspective when you think about it, at least in my opinion. That's a whoa, wow. It's like what grows the flow and the motion and also what contains it at the same time, which is that's a pretty crazy perspective to be on, in my opinion, to be honest. So we have this like centered version of ourselves that wanted a transformation, a very a very centered version of ourselves at the beginning of this transit, very centered version of ourselves who asked for a transformation, very centered version of ourselves who asked for a seat of power, asked for there to be a hierarchical offering or structure or giving. And through those years of Pluto and Capricorn, we've gone through the transformation, but now that transformation gets to sit on the surface again. Because again, part of Capricorn is the skin. So it's like we finally get to wear it externally. We finally get to present that person that we have become. And that also, the higher self included in this is very, with Capricorn, it is about hierarchy. So, especially if you have a lot of Capricorn placements, you've probably been climbing hierarchies of self or climbing within those higher self sort of structures. So, a lot of revealing and clarity are kind of vague. Let's get more specific. It's something about being terrific. You're doing terrific. Be terrific. You're doing terrific. Especially, it's like you've climbed higher than maybe you thought you have. Hi to you too. You've climbed higher than maybe you thought you have. And so now it's just like, look at the view and look at you. Look at the view and look at you. A shift of perspective is overdue. Overdue? Overdue. Apparently. Oh my goodness. Apparently, honestly, a shift of perspective. Let's see. Overdue. I've been kind of feeling that, honestly. It's overdue. the overdue. What else do we need to see? Focus and kitchen magic. Ooh, focus and kitchen magic. And they came out together. Focus and kitchen magic. Let's talk a little bit more about focus. Focus and kitchen magic. This actually kind of goes into next year. Okay, Capricorn season, a lot of things are going to be made clear for next year because with Saturn moving into Aries, again, the order, the structure of the mind, so more preparation energy, clarity for preparing. Also, I don't feel sometimes in preparation work, it's like we must create, we must do. It's like a very active thing. This just feels like an awareness. Awareness is the preparation. Awareness is the preparation. I am grateful for that. I am grateful for that. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So within the focus, a lot of Saturn in Aries is the understanding of mental magic. The understanding of mental magic. Now, for foundations in that, having a very well versed, rehearsed possibly, structure and order with meditation is very, very important. Being able to navigate your mental space internally without having external influence is really important because Saturn in Aries also asks that you look at how the external influences the mind. It's a back and a forth. A back and forth and creating boundaries so that there can be mental application of magic without really having to, how do I say this? Without really having to give structure in the physical. Also, though, with this is kitchen magic. We have the South Node moving into Virgo, which is going to be about the body. It's about our body structures. It's about the body's health. It's about growing our nourishment and our relationship with the body information integration. So they go together in these next couple of years. The South Node in Virgo and Saturn in Aries, the way that we're working our mental magic is going to be very, and I mean very directly connected to that South Node in Virgo and how our body is integrating information. Depending upon who you are and if you're able-bodied and how able-bodied you are, those practices change and everybody has a different diet. Everyone has a different kind of like internal system, So depending upon who you are and how you are, that's going to alter or change that perspective or those practices as well. So discern for yourself what is going to be the healthiest and what is going to be really like supportive for you. And understand too that in the magical shift, it's like a shift and then we lock in where we shift the body and the mind shifts. We shift the mind and the body shifts. They go together. They're supposed to go together. It's a very clever thing for them to go together. So especially too, one of the things is I'm a Saturn in Aries. Hello. And one of the things that I have learned through this placement that I will recommend as if you're studying this or you want to learn more about this, especially if you're someone who has a Saturn in Aries and you're in the chat right now, okay? Clock it. There's a Saturn return coming up. So if you have Saturn in Aries energy, it asks that you are very mentally aware. Your mind prepares the physical, okay? So your mind prepares the physical. What do I mean by that? If I have the idea, as someone who has a Saturn in Aries, if I have the idea of an order and a structure that I need to create, oh, I need to go and clean that thing up. Oh, I need to go. It's like a spark or an activation in the mind, because that's also Aries, is the spark. It's the start of things. So if I have a spark or a start and within the mental space, okay, I have this spark and the start and I go and then I activate it in the physical, I have then just honored and revered what my mind, Saturn in Aries, has offered to me. The order that is created in the mind, if it is grounded in the physical world, that's a consecration. And it also relates and ties, how do I explain? It's like relates and ties that mental structure to the physical world. It makes your order stronger by doing that in your practice. To say that you have an order of rituals or you have an order of intuition, especially because Neptune is going to be with Saturn and Aries too. So there's going to be a lot of spiritual information coming through mentally as well next year. So that's one thing that I recommend for that is really keeping up. If you have ideas of starting things, go do it. If your mind is like, create the order, there's a spark, go make the order, create the order, honor your head and go make the order. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it. Because then what happens too is if you have interactions with like, if you're someone who's a magical practitioner and you have things going on in the shadow, which is just like the unseen stuff or the unexplainable, maybe there's some chaos going on. That's going to be a little bit more related to Pluto being in Aquarius now. But which is valid because this is about like Capricorn season 2 and the relation of that. So it's true. We'll get a little bit more into that in a second, but it is. So if you have the relation of just like if there's chaos around you in your practice, if you're being really aware of those starts and activations, sometimes you'll notice that things happen in the physical order that have not yet happened in the mind. Probably it didn't come from you then. Probably it's not a part of your magic and it's a part of somebody else's magic. And then you can kind of discern boundaries around that as you would need to. It's a protective order. It becomes a protective order. It also becomes a directive order because if you notice that something in the physical has happened that has nothing to do with what you've already thought about and activated mentally, then you can start to kind of look around, especially wherever Mars would be in your chart too is going to be applicable for this. Your Mars in your Aries sort of space on a personal level. You can look around in that area of your life and be like, is there anything different? Is anything going on in this area? Is there anything going on where I might need to be a little, keep my eyes, just like prepared to catch something or see something, or do I need to be aware of anything else? So being in that sort of ordered practice of how your head keeps the order and how you relate that to the physical, super important, super important for the coming year, coming like a couple of years. And Capricorn season, it makes a lot of that clear. It makes a lot. It's like a mirror. This Capricorn season, instead of us, if you've ever done mirror work, because the South Node is still in Libra. Okay, so if you, little kitty cat, he on this side, yeah, he's chilling. I don't know. I don't think you can see him on TikTok, but he's hanging out. Anyways, so where was I going? Let me not lose my train of thought. Capricorn season. Oh, like a mirror. Okay, because the South Node's still in Libra. So this season is going to be like a mirror. This Capricorn season is going to be. If you've ever looked in the mirror with a candle and it's dark and you can't really see anything, right? And you can kind of see a little bit. It's kind of like a shape-shifty sort of mirror. I only ever practice that sort of work in the mirror when it's dark with just a candle or like a small light. If I'm doing like really, really, really dark work that needs to be very, very veiled. Okay. But it's very shape-shifty. And that's kind of been what Capricorn season has offered to us for a long time because of Pluto and Capricorn. So this time around, it's like we finally get to see in the daylight for ourselves, like what has this transformation really started and who have we become? So if you wanted to get familiar, well, let's back up a little bit actually, because Saturn is still in Pisces. So it'll be a spiritual perspective of who you've become, a spiritual perspective of how you've transitioned through the years. You'll also be able to see, because Saturn is in Pisces, any other transitions that still need to be consecrated here on the earth because they haven't been finished yet, or because they need to be finished, or because there's still like some extra work that needs to be whatever bound up, however Capricorn works for you. Yeah, that's true. Because then when we get to Saturn in Aries, it's about activating the new. It's activating new order. Even if you like take the picture of the head out of it, we're activating new order. Saturn in Aries is the beginning of a new structure and a new order. It's the beginning of being lifted up and out of one situation, because that's also Aries, is the savior of the children, or like the protection of the children. So the removal of those children from dangerous situations, and kind of like what that costs and who the kids become because of that removal of the situation. That's a lot about the Aries story. So having the kid, the inner kid, or the children around you being picked up and moved on, we're beginning again. We're beginning again. The end of Saturn in Pisces grounds us. We land somewhere after our transition, and then we start again. We begin again because we have transitioned into a new person. So a lot of this Capricorn season is just going to be really seeing for the first time like who we really are and who we have become because of Pluto having been in Capricorn. And with that clarity, we'll be able to make some decisions about what is it that I really want to start with this new order. And again, I'll say it again. I said it earlier, but I feel like it's important to bring back in Saturn and Neptune being in Aries at the same time, and there are several different conjunctions of them very early on. It's the birth of a new spiritual order. Clock it. Birth of a new spiritual order. So, new spiritual order for you and your practice. Like I said earlier, if you go back and look at other dates of when Saturn and Neptune have been in Aries together, it's like the birth of different religious groups or structures. It's also like secret societies sort of energy. So, however that might work with you, for you. Also, I think it's interesting if we talk more on like the secrets, I'm going to quote unquote secret society that see, if you look at the secret society portion of that, Pluto being in Aquarius is about the power that we draw when we're with other people and how we do that. And if you're keeping, okay, hold on, because another side thing that's been coming through, I think it was in a collective read. Did I do that yesterday? I did a collective reading for the full moon yesterday, which is replay on YouTube if you want to go check it out, if you missed it, or you want to go see it, or both, however that works for you. But in that reading, one of the things that came through was like, if you have inventive ideas or big ideas coming through with Pluto and Aquarius, part of the energy is really creative. It's very inventive. It's very like directive. We're leading the people in this direction because of these inventions. Aquarius can see into the future and then draw it back and create order to get there. Creating the order to get there is kind of the harder part of Aquarius. And so you have to be consistent with Saturn for that to be able to be possible. But it's like the ideas of invention. And that's available to everybody. It's not just available to like, one or two people. It's for everybody that's here, thankfully, thankfully. And yes, with that energy though, there's really big ideas coming through. Also, Uranus is the primordial being that births time and order and structure. The primordial being, the primordial mother, the primordial father, the primordial parent that births in time and structure and order. Always going to be a crazy concept to me, I think, and also a part of the structure. So those big inventive ideas or those big clarities that come in spiritually also need to be kept private, because if you're not around people that are like if those ideas get taken, there's just some things that Pluto and Saturn are kind of harsh sometimes, and you have to keep boundaries for a reason. I won't get too into the details of that, but it's also, thank you for that. Yeah, you gotta be a little inventive about your boundaries as well. So we kind of it's interesting to me that we have the Saturn and Neptune going into areas where there's like secret societies and different groups that could come up to bring new spiritual order and spiritual structure, while at the same time Pluto and Aquarius is like, well, what power are you drawing on each other? Are you taking power from other people? How are people taking power from you? What's the power of the social dynamics and social groups? So there could be some major fall through. It's not the word that I want to use, but it's the word that is coming into my mind. So just be kind to yourself, be kind to other people. If you are going to work with other people in this era, when it comes to magic and magical spaces, this is definitely a time for a collaboration and a lot of kindness, because Aquarius is very, very unpredictable. It's chaotic. And one of the things about chaos is that it's an order that has come before us that we, for whatever reason, have not yet been able to identify. We might not be able to identify it in our lifetime. Sometimes that's Aquarius. Sometimes it takes generations for us to be able to identify that order. Sometimes it will never be identified. The primordial beings are older than us for a reason. Sometimes we're not supposed to know. We're little tiny baby children on the earth compared to that. So sometimes we don't need to know. Sometimes I don't want to know. Keep it off of me. If I don't need the responsibility of the wisdom, I don't want to know. Keep it hushed. But sometimes if it comes through and it's necessary, then definitely keeping, one of the things I say is keep it secret, keep it sacred, keep it secret, keep it sacred. So just having a really good discernment of, in this era, in the beginning of Pluto and Aquarius, where we have Saturn and Neptune, it's like we want to birth new groups of magic, and we want to birth new orders together of magic, while at the same time Pluto and Aquarius is like, here is a lot of lessons in power because you're doing that. What are you going to do with it? And sometimes those lessons of power are hard, just to put it like point blank. Sometimes they're really, really hard. So just have a good discernment for yourself, because one of the other things that goes with Pluto being in a transit or being in a sign and going through a transit is that over the years it compounds. So if you have something happen in the first couple of years in Pluto in Aquarius, and now that it's out of Capricorn, it might not be for another 15 years that it comes to the surface. Sometimes things, especially because Pluto is the underworld, let's think about this in perspective of like directions for a second. Pluto is the underworld. So it's like way down here. Okay. Aquarius is the air, two different sorts of air that you can work with Aquarius, or that I more commonly will work with Aquarius. One of them is the air that carries the clouds. So it's like this, it's the cycle. It carries the cycle. It's the water bearer, right? So it like brings the life. It also is representative of the air that's way out there. It's the air that is like the ozone layer, is at the edge of the earth. So we have the underworld with the air that's on the edge of the earth. That is crazy to me. That is crazy to me, because think about how much room is in between that. Think about how much time it would take, Saturn being the other ruler of Aquarius in time. Think about how much time it takes for us to go from the underworld to the air that is way out there, or the air that is way out there for that to filter down into the underworld. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. One of the things I've been recommending to people throughout the next several sun seasons is that if you have any chaotic things happen and you want to, write it down. Keep a little notebook of like, this weird thing happened today. And because that's part of the knowing of chaos of Aquarius. So that's true. Yeah. Let's see what else we need to see. Let's see what else we need to see about this. Something we cannot see. Interesting. Meditation. Something we cannot see. A bright light. If you meditate, let it be free. Makes me want to sing a song. I don't know where that came from. That's a movie. That's I don't know what movie that's from, but that's a movie. Anyways, meditation. If you meditate, let it be free. Let it be free. Let it be free. And what do I mean by if you meditate, let it be free? No frequencies, no binaural beats. It's like kind of sterile almost. Not sterile in the sense of like nothing is happening, but like no influence, no music, none of that. Also, let it be free in the sense of like you're not meditating on anything specific. Sometimes necessary. And you might find this is let it be free. Meditate and let it be free. You might be in the middle of a meditation and realize, oh, it needs to be something, like I do need to meditate on something. You might realize that, but because you haven't bound up the meditation in anything, you can then go in that direction. So if you're going to meditate, because sometimes this landed in a way where it's like sometimes you need to meditate and sometimes you need to consecrate. Sometimes you need to meditate and sometimes you need to go and you need to finalize it, or you need to bring it into construction. You need to bring it into right here. And you know the instruction for yourself. You know the instruction. You know what you need to be doing, and also how that's going to be like working for you. I also want to check out too. Let me go to our charts and just see kind of what is happening throughout Capricorn season. Most of Capricorn season, honestly, we have Chiron's going to go direct, which I'm actually really excited for that. I'm so excited for Chiron to go direct. Chiron's going to go direct during our Capricorn season. So that's one thing to look forward to. All of this healing work, okay, all of this dense healing work that has been happening, we're about to like end the chapter of the denseness and it's allowed to be easy again. I'm so grateful for that. Thankfully. What else do we need to see? We also have Venus entering Pisces in Capricorn season. Mercury will enter Capricorn. And the Mars retrograde is going to enter Cancer. Oh, that's interesting. Mars retrograde is going to enter Cancer right before the Cancer full moon in Capricorn season. Oh, interesting. Let's go to that full moon. Let me pull up that chart. Let me pull up the chart of that full moon. Full moon in Cancer. Let's check it out. Yes. Let us have a look. You know, when will Mars stop being retrograde? Mars retrograde ends on February 24th. So we've got a good couple months of a Mars retrograde. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's check this out. We have Mercury and the Sun in Capricorn. We're also going to have Venus and Saturn. They're within a 4-degree conjunction. for that moon. Oh my gosh, the full moon in Cancer, and then Mars retrograde is going to be within a 4-degree conjunction of the moon when it goes exact. Oh, wow. That'll be, if you've been waiting for, oh my gosh, that'll be the end. Like, that'll be the end. That day, what day is that? The 13th, January 13th of Capricorn season. That will be the end. That will be the end. If you've had a reason to have an ending, and that's the day of the end. It's the end. The story's over. We're already starting to kind of realize that the story is over and turn our direction, and it's a big shift. And think about if you're driving like a big boat, you have to turn really slowly. It has to be done so slow. So that's the turn over the next couple of months that we're taking, is like this huge, it's huge. It's a ginormous turn. And because it's a ginormous turn, it has to be done very slowly and like eloquently, also like detailed, giving yourself some grace and some patience, and like being patient with the process. So much has changed over the previous 17 years also. So just like being gentle and caring with yourself as you're processing all that information. But that's the end. That's the end. That full moon in Cancer, that's like what, a month from now? That's the end. If there's anything in the story that needs to come to like a final concrete, I'm not this anymore, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not this person anymore, and it'll be free. Talk about the free. Talk about the free. It's like a sense of liberation. Like, I'm not writing that story anymore. I'm not in that story. I'm not around those people. That's not my storyline. My luck has changed. My fate has changed. I have changed. So it's this, we've already experienced the end, but now we get to integrate it. Now we get to become it. And that offers us a new thing. That offers us a new storyline. It offers us a new space, a new place, a new embrace. You could also too go back to 2020. Around that time, that's when the eclipses, there was an eclipse in Cancer in 2020. I'm fairly certain. I think it was a new moon eclipse in Cancer in 2020. I'm pretty sure. So if you wanted to go back to those eclipses and just kind of see what you've been working in since then, I know for myself, the only reason I can pull that date off the top of my head is because there was something really important that happened around that time for me that had to do with the moon and the moon cycles and the eclipse cycles. So if you're looking at your long-term transitions with the eclipses, that could be something that's helpful. Just if it's relevant for you, then homework if you want it. If not, then don't worry about it. No need to worry about it, Interesting. How curious, how mysterious, how curious. The end. Because Mars retrograde, a part of Mars retrograde, which is interesting that Mars retrograde is happening over Capricorn season. How do I say this? And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn's going to be in Aries, which is ruled by Mars next year. Talk about the planets being a little schemy. Talk about them. For me, what I see with that is them being like, here's the pieces to the puzzle. Are you going to put it together? Here's the pieces to the puzzle. Are you going to put the puzzle? Do you see the picture? Do you see the picture? That's why I feel like the Capricorn season this year is going to be like, oh, here's a little piece of this, and here's a little piece of this, and here's a little piece of this. And if you can really put it together, then you'll have this like brand new, beautiful picture. But it does require, with Mars, it does require that it's like you can look at it and activate it somehow. Mars retrograde, though, is a time of rest and healing and recovery as well. So different. How interesting. How interesting. All the pieces of the puzzles, all the pieces of the puzzle all the pieces of the puzzle coming through. Put it together for yourself. Who are you? Where are you going? What now? And a lot of the like information that's been coming through, look back to the new moon solar eclipse. Clock it for yourself if it's important. Look back. If not, then don't worry about it again. But I work with the eclipse cycles, the really big ones. And so if you're looking at the new moon solar eclipse that happened in Aries, April 8th of this year, 2024, that was the opening of a door. Here's more purpose. Here's more of this mental thing, mental purpose, mental spiritual purpose, mental ideas. For me, on that day specifically, I sat down and was writing and writing and I was like feverishly writing out some stuff that was coming, not some stuff. I don't want to disregard how important it was, but it was also, some stuff. It is what it is. A lot of math stuff that I'm not going to get too deep into because I don't really talk about math on my pages right now. Anyways, since then though, there's been some brush ups on it. And recently I've been kind of like guided or told or just prepared for the fact that there's going to be more information around that coming in. So it's been like preparation information. So if you look back to any important mental information that you were receiving on that eclipse, April 8th of 2024, that was the opening of a door, and the eclipse that's coming up and all of this Aries energy that's happening next year with Neptune and Saturn, and we have the Mars retrograde that's helping us to prepare for this as well. We're really like, the door's been open for a while, but we haven't actually like walked through it. We haven't been ushered into it yet. It's also what I see is just like when you open up a door and there's like, it's really windy outside and there's wind on the other side of, like, you have a door open on the other side of the house. You ever done that where you have two doors open? So you open one, like that second door, and there's all this wind that comes in and it like really tries to shut the door. You like have to hold it open. And it's like that big, big, big draft. Okay. That's what I'm seeing for this is like the door opened on that eclipse, but we've had to learn how to keep the door open, and we've had to learn how to like, how do I say, we've had to learn how to keep it centered and keep it open. And with all of this energy of Saturn being in Aries, Neptune being in Aries, and the weight that this year's Capricorn season carries for us, now is the time where we're starting to, it's like maybe the winds may not have died down, but like our strength of being able to keep that door open has kind of arrived. And there's going to be, the nodes change. What day is that? They change in Aquarius season. It's January 28th. So the nodes switch over January 28th. But starting in Capricorn season, it's going to be like there's moments where we are starting to walk through the door or become more through this door. And it's like more information, more wisdom, more spiritual order, more structure, more mental structure, more ideas, more purpose. And some of the stuff too that's been coming in through the sessions I've been doing recently is like there's so much light starting in Capricorn, which is so interesting to me because Capricorn season is literally the darkest night. It starts on the darkest night and then we move into more light. But I keep just seeing all of this like, and I've worked in the shadow and the spirit for a long time. I also work in the light. So, a balance of things, but I've been really shadow centered for a while. So it's very interesting to me that we have all this light energy kind of coming in over the next 6-ish, 7 months of just like, we have light. It's all, and it'll be, if you're coming out of the darkest of night, you can't have all the light at the same time, right? Otherwise it would be blinding. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to see anything. So it's like incrementally the brightness becomes increased so that we're able to adjust, which thank goodness, because I like to see. I like my eyes. Please don't blind me forever. Be wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. So, thanks. Cool. So yes. So we have all this light coming in. Let's pull another card about it. Oh my goodness. All this light coming in. What else do we need to see? Capricorn season, easy. Abundance. Oh, let's talk about that. Think about all the work that you've done over the previous, you might not be able to see full clarity yet. Okay. But just think about it for a moment. If you want to sit with the homework essence of it. Think about all the work you've done over the previous 17 years to become the person that you are. What seat of power have you been working towards? What have you been creating for yourself? Okay. Look at that. Look at it. And now have the perspective that when Pluto is with a sign, we can't have the full harvest. We can't have the full harvest. That's not a knock against Pluto. That's just an order of Pluto. We can't have the full harvest. We can't have the full harvest unless Pluto is like, how do I say? Pluto in your chart will show you how you have the full harvest. Valid. And also, when Pluto is moving through a sign that your Pluto is not in, we can't have the full harvest till it's over, until it's done, until we get to move on. We can't have the full harvest until afterwards. And that's a part of the crossovers of the death and the rebirth of Pluto, is like we can't have the full harvest of what has been until it's already over. And yeah, so it's like an interesting crossover that happens when there is the endings and beginnings in Pluto energy because of that. I guess I haven't ever really thought about it like that, but it's true. That's part of its structure. So the abundance, if you haven't received, think about if you've really been working on something and you haven't received the full abundance of it yet. Okay, well, put the seatbelt on. We're driving again. That's what I see. It's like it's almost like, those roller coasters. Oh my gosh, is this really the visual that's being offered to me right now? Okay, yeah, well, we can talk about it then. It reminds me of those roller coasters, which that's a lot. That's a lot. The roller coasters where you don't like, it's not the click, click, click ones where you get taken up the track. It's the ones that like shoot you up. And then the roller coaster starts. It reminds me of that. It's like, okay, you better be strapped in. You ready? Because the ride's about to begin. That's what it reminds me of. So it's like this shoot up. Oh, wow. And see, this is why I wanted to sit and do a reading about Capricorn season, is because I've been feeling that energy, and I've been feeling that coming in, and just kind of like how are we going to move in it? What can we expect from it? Okay, so I want to read a little bit more into that if it's possible. I want to know a little bit more about that. Higher self and influence. Higher self and influence. What has your higher self been influencing you to do? What has your higher self? You may not always understand your higher self. You may not always understand why they're asking you to do what you are doing. You may not always understand the higher self's perspectives until maybe you sit with it a little bit longer. The higher self it's a process of integrating what is higher than us, of the self, right? So like we're integrating, we come back down to earth. Okay, then there's another perspective of the higher self needs to be integrated. And so it's a very circular cycle that happens. Here's the clue, if you wanted one for you on a personal level, okay? Because I can't tell everybody specifically what the thing is, but also here's a structure to look at the clue of what could be for you during this Capricorn season. What has your higher self been asking you to do? I know I need to be doing this. For me, I know I need to keep my house clean. Okay. What's your higher self been asking you to do? I'll give you some examples. I know I need to keep my house clean. I've been keeping more offerings at the altar. I know I need to do that. I've got my plants sitting in front of me. I've got to get them watered. I know I need to do that. Like taking care of the life that's already here. I know I need to start my training, which I have started, and like I'm on that journey again. There's like many other things in my life. There's certain studies I've picked up that I need to keep up with. There's certain transitions I'm working in that I know I need to make those transitions happen. So it's like you may not understand why you're needing to do it, okay? Because I know there's some of the stuff that I'm starting where I'm like, yeah, duh, obviously I need to do that. I could not tell you. Couldn't tell you. Don't know why. Don't know where it's going to take me. I just know that it's what I need to be practicing. And so because it's what I need to be practicing, I'm sitting in it. I'm revering in it. So it's like my higher self's asking me to integrate something. So more wild rides. Yeah, always. Oh, when is it not? When is it not? Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, that's a great question. There's times of rest. That's true. And also, it is what it is. So think about what your higher self's been asking you to integrate, this circular cycle, the higher self and the integration. Because then if you can kind of pinpoint, okay, here's kind of like a puzzle piece, the puzzle pieces, here's this and this and this kind of thing. If you can pinpoint those and look at how they kind of go together, okay, look at how they go together. You might not have the big picture yet. It reminds me of trying to put together a puzzle without the box picture. You're trying to put together a puzzle without the box picture, but you're still trying to put the puzzle together. That's what it reminds me of. During Capricorn season, we finally get the picture. Here's the picture. You can put the puzzle together now. You have the frame or the format. Here's the picture. Here's the understanding. It's a consecration of your integration, of your wisdom. It's a consecration. The whole entire Capricorn season is a consecration. That feels right. That does not feel incorrect. That feels correct. The whole entire Capricorn season is a consecration in the light of what we've been doing for 17 years in the night. All of Capricorn season? All of Capricorn? Oh my gosh. All of Capricorn season. Is it? I don't know why I'm like shooketh or dumbfounded by that, but I am. All of Capricorn season is a consecration season. I suppose you know what? It makes sense. It makes sense. All of Capricorn season. And what do I mean by consecration? What do I mean by that for people who may not be familiar with that word? It's a finalization. Things that have been happening in the spirit and in the physical that, for whatever reason, have not been brought into a unification, a finalization. When they're brought into finalization, when they're brought into union in the physical and the spirit, it could be in the mind and the heart. It could be in the heart and the physical. Okay. But two different things. Normally, when I speak on it, I speak on the spirit and the physical, but it's also just two different aspects. When they come together and they're now bound together, that's a consecration. Consecration, a union that is sacred to consecrate. Okay. So, just for reference, and that's what it is. Yes. Finalization of a unification. All season. The whole season, the whole season, the whole entire season, all of Capricorn season, all of Capricorn season, a time of consecration. You know what? The spirits have been telling me that for months. It's a time to consecrate. It's time to consecrate. And I realized earlier that they give me words that I either don't understand or I'm not ready for. They'll like give me words. They don't give me like whole entire phrases a lot of the times. But time to consecrate has been one that's been on my heart and my mind for months now. Literally months now. Now I get it. Okay, time to consecrate. It's time to consecrate. Here we go. It's time to consecrate. The whole entire Capricorn season is a season of consecration. It's also going to be a how do I say that? Production of reason. Production is a word that has been coming up recently. To produce something. It's a creative energy. Yes, production, the act of production. Also, like fertility energy has been around recently. Also, fertility in the sense of not necessarily in the physical, but just like there's a fertileness around us again. There's like we could plant the seeds, we can sow the seeds. There's fertile energy, fertile ground. It's fertile again. There's fertility. There's fertileness. So all of Capricorn season is a consecration. So what do we need to do with the consecrate? Is there anything specific to do with the consecration energy or anything that we need to know about specifically within that space? Healing, again, focus and kitchen magic come out. Healing, focus, and kitchen magic. Focus on the healing. Also on the healing card in here, the hands are laid on the person. The laying of hands, having hands laid on you. Laying your hands on other people, healing, also through physical, it's like physical healing of the spirit, physical healing of the mind too, physical healing of the mind. Interesting. Physical healing of the mind. I like that phrase, physical healing of the mind, because think about that. If your mind is buzzing up here, physical healing of the mind means that your mind is finally in unity with the body. Grateful for that, clean up as you need to, for sure. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that phrase, the physical healing of the mind, being able to bring unification within the mind. And also this hand is, it reminds me of like counting something, or like how like with cards, or like the counting of money. I'm not exactly, it's like the ushering in and out at the same time is kind of the feeling I get from this. The healing, the consecration of the healing of the mind and the body together. And the laying of the hands. There's also hands over like the stomach area or the womb space, kind of both in this picture too. So if there's healing, Pluto does have to do with our reproductive structure, systems, spaces. So healing of that. And a lot of the healing, the hands look like her hands. Oh, that's kind of cool. Healing yourself. Because it looks like, I'll show you. The card has hands. It has hands on the, hands. But her hands, or their hands look like the hands that are being laid on themselves. So it's like laying hands on oneself, being able to heal oneself and lay hands on oneself, laying your healing hands on yourself. I'm grateful for that perspective as well. Laying your healing hands on yourself. To be forged in fire and then asked to think higher, it does require moments where we perspire. Okay, interesting. To be forged in fire and think higher, it creates moments where we can perspire. To perspire. Let me double check the meaning of that word. Hold on. To perspire, like perspiration is also what that reminds me of. To perspire, perspiration. You can do it. There we go. Perspire, perspire, perspire. Yes, thank you. Perspire. Oh, so basically sweating. Again. Interesting. Perspiration. Perspire. It also reminds me of desire, perspire, and to like inspire, to perspire. And spire would also be like a fire, a flame, like to light a spire, to spire something, to spire, and to inspire, spire, 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 spire. Spire is fire, think higher, aspire. So to perspire, it's like every single one of the fires you've lit now comes through. You can perspire. You can perspire. There is allowed to be that fire. Interesting. Okay. And speaking of fire, that's in the next card. Cool. Okay. Yeah, of course it is. Duh. Of course it is. Duh. Focus. This is also too interesting. I literally did this earlier. This card, these are new. This is a new card deck for me. So I'm, getting familiar with the energy of, well, not necessarily, the energy, but also just the pictures are new to me too. So I'm kind of reading into them as well. The hand on this one is over it's over the candle. And the candle's here. It's over the candle. And quite interesting because I had incense going earlier and I don't ever do this, but I had the hand over the incense. I was like, I just need to hold this here for a second. I don't know why, but I just need to hold this here for a second. So it's like focusing on physical magic coming together, focusing on physical magic and the fire. Something about the fire being able to come back and the creative forces being able to come back is allowing us to actually focus again. It's focusing on the magic, focusing on focus. It's a focus. There's also this kitchen magic. This is one of the fuller cards in this deck, picture wise. There's like a lot of full energy. They have all these different tools behind them and they have all of these different ingredients and herbs and spirits that are around them. So it's like where it reminds me of a full house. It's like if you felt desolate or isolate or things that have maybe not been going your way and you've had to work through them by yourself and not had a lot of perspective or help from external energies or spirits, it's like you're in a full house again. You're in a full house and the spirits are around and they're helping you to ground and they're helping to lift you up. And there's also an integration of practice, It's a very, how do I say, homely, yes, sure. And because the South Node is moving into Virgo very soon, it's very, what's the word? A lot of people, interesting. A lot of people who are practitioners are going to start working more in the kitchen. I have a feeling over, not that you already don't do that, but there's going to be even more work in the kitchen. Even the other, I'm not going to get too deep into what that work was, but even the other day I used a pot that like as like a cauldron when, how do I explain this without over explaining it? It was a work that wouldn't have necessarily been done in a pot, you know what I mean? But I was like, it needs to be done in the pot. I need to include this. Like this, I got to get this done in the pot. It has to be done in the pot. All right, spirit of me knowing what I need to do. Thank you very much. So bringing that through, because then it was a very much, how do I explain this? Again, not to get too into the details, but it was it was a very strengthened, deconstructive work. And even the other day, now that pot is imbued with that work that was done, because the other day I went to go clean that pot or put it away. I don't remember, but I was picking it up for something, for a reason. It was clean. And it was more of like a battle magic sort of work that I did too. Again, that's why I don't want to get too deep into it, is because I don't really talk about that kind of work online. That kind of work requires a form of secrecy. So not to get, but also, okay, just for direction, it was that kind of work. And I picked up the pot, is relevant to the story, is why I said it. I picked up the pot and immediately I was like, I don't know, my spirit was like, I could take somebody out with this. Ridiculous. And so when you practice magic in your pots and in your pans and like in the kitchen, you're also imbuing what it is that that's a really beautiful perspective. You're also imbuing those kitchen items, or those kitchen spirits rather, both possibly, the pots, the pans, the cutting boards, the knives. You're imbuing them into the ritual. So you're imbuing your magic. Like if you're doing it ritualistically, you're imbuing your magic into those tools and into those spirits. And then it's not just about the spirits of the herbs. It's not just about the spirits of the food or the spirits of the water and the fire that are happening. It's also about the spirits of how do I explain that? The tools. For me, that would be dwarven energy, honestly. The dwarves, the technology, the pots and the pans, those are the dwarven energy. I love the dwarves. You know what? Dwarves with love, truth, and free. Thank you for allowing me to talk about you. That was wonderful. The dwarven energy, interesting. Interesting. Quite curious, because I'm sitting here. You can't see it, but my kitchen is right there. It's right over, and so I can see my kitchen as I'm talking about this. So I'm sitting here looking at all of my like herbs and all of my kitchen stuff that's out, and now I feel schemy. Now I feel like, what am I going to cook up? What am I going to do? What is this really going to do for me? I'm interested to see. Ooh, and also I really like the perspective, because I haven't ever thought about it like that. The perspective of imbuing the magic that you're practicing into the tools and the items that you are sitting with. Again, the dwarven energy, at least that's what it is for me in my practice, the dwarven energy of those beings. Yep. Interesting. I also just ushered in a new item to my kitchen that I'm looking at too. So it's like the ushering in of new spiritual tools, or a new spirit into the kitchen as well. Curious, interesting. Okay, well, what is it? I feel like there may be a little bit more. I don't know exactly what's going to come through, but I'll see it as we need to. That's true. Anything that we need to read before we close the door on the live stream, because it has been about an hour that I've been on. A banish. As a death magic. Banish. A vanish. Banish. It's like you banish yourself. Banish. I banish myself. I banish myself from this, and 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 I banish myself from that, and I banish myself from this, and I banish myself from this, and because you know what? You know how much power you hold? You know how much power you hold? You know how powerful you are? You know how much you affect other people? You know how much you direct other people? You know how much you offer to people by walking into a room? You show up with your magic. You know how much you offer to people when you walk in a room, when you talk to a person. You know how much you offer to them. Of course, if people have done you dirty or done you wrong, which is a part of Pluto and Capricorn, and it has been strong, a part of Pluto and Capricorn, then of course, banishing yourself from that situation without complication is going to be a resignation, through, done, over, a banishment, a banishing. It's like banishing yourself from the spaces that were not worth you and did not earn what you offered to them, or did not deserve you in the first place. A banishing. It's like, normally when I think of banishing, I think of like, I'm banishing these things from my life. Get gone, get clear, get done, I'm out. But this is very much, it's like a reversal of that, where if it's like banishing energy, but you were the one to leave, or you were the one to remove yourself. It's like you removed yourself from situations or places or people. You were what was banished, but you were the one who banished you. You weren't banished by other people. You banished you. Interesting. What a different perspective. What else we need to see about this banishment? Oh my, that was a lot of cards. They came out so sneakily, swiftly too. Like, read all of us. Something that cannot be seen. Knowledge grounding. This banishment, this self-banishment, banishing yourself from the situations that don't actually support you. There's more knowledge to come through because of this. Think about that. If you are around people or places or situations that are not protecting you, or do not like benefit you, or don't work with you, or it just, for whatever reason, it's not working out. If you leave, you are then protecting yourself, which means the spirits around you can offer more to you because you are more protected. So there's more wisdom to ground. You may not understand exactly what it is, sometimes people don't need to be around. To banish what has not been working for you has made room. It's like an extra barrier, is what I see. It's like an extra social barrier around you so that there can be more of this information, wisdom that comes through. This came through yesterday in the reading for the full moon as well. So this is going to be important for some people, very specifically for anyone who makes offerings to gods, larger spirits, okay? Not necessarily, and I'm going to make the discernment between, like, there are still practices outside of that. There are practices of meditation, there are practices of, like, for wisdom. You can read books, you can study things, you can sit and think about it and learn about it. But this specifically, what came through yesterday, and I'm feeling the energy kind of again, this may not be for every single person, but for people who offer to gods and work with God wisdom, that's a large wisdom. And sometimes that wisdom, for it to be able to be offered to you, there has to be a preparation work done so that you are able to receive what is needed for your work and necessary, which sometimes means banishing yourself from people, places, and situations so that there can be a barrier. Because had you received the information while you were around those people, I don't want to know what would have happened on a personal level. So we don't have to go there. I don't want to go there again. Leave it be, leave it alone. That's what I mean. I don't even want to talk about it. Banishing ritual. Keep me out of it. keep the door slammed shut. I don't want to talk about it. Keep me out of it. Oh my goodness. The other ones that came through: praise, sacred heart, and taboo. Praise, sacred heart, and taboo. Interesting. Praise, sacred heart. The praise one is interesting to me too. Everything. Every time I pull this card, to me right now, it's very clear that it's like church choir robes. But every time I've pulled this card prior to right now, it reminds me of graduation robes. It reminds me of graduation, like, ceremony robes. So it's like, praises be to the work that you have done. Praise the work that you've done. Lift yourself up. This is also when I think of praise, it's like you're offering life to the spirits for no need of return. There's no reason that you would need anything in return. You're literally just offering praise because of what has happened. Thank you so much for this. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful. And you lift it and you lift it and you lift it and you lift it and you lift it. However that works for you. Maybe it's not a lift. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's an offering. It could be different for every single person. For me, though, I'll speak personally. For me, it's a lift. To offer praises is like to lift someone out of something, to lift people out of something, to offer praises. Because if you think about that, say that you are having a conversation with someone and you see that they've done something that is praiseworthy. For you to withhold that praise then says, I'm not going to offer them this lift out of this, how do I say? That's just how I see praise. It's like, if you offer that to someone, hold on. I gotta make sure TikTok knows that I'm a human being. Thank you, TikTok. It's like when you offer praise to someone on a human to human level, you're helping them lift themselves. It's like the offering of a lift. You're helping them lift themselves and be like, yeah, you know what? It's like a validation or a verification. So praises, maybe you're going to receive validation and verification for the work that you have done. Also, I hear finally. It's like finally you're able to receive. You've been so humble. The humble, like, regard the fact that you've been humble. You've been humble and you've had to be humble and you have been humbled. Humbled, not a grumble, just a humble. Being on the earth, being on the ground, being human, being humble in the work that you're doing, not needing the praise. That's what being humble in this essence would be. Doing the work without needing praise from anyone or anything. You're doing it just because it needs to be done. You're doing it because whether it's fun or not, you know why it is necessary. And so it is consecrated and it is practiced. And because of that, then there is a praise that is earned and can be offered. Also, a sacred heart here. A sacred heart, the praises be sacred heart, leaving behind all of this energy. Because again, there's this banishing yourself to a place where you can be more protected, banishing yourself to a place where you don't have to be around these energies that don't protect you or don't well direct you. Self-banishment, self-inclusion in a banishment. Interesting. Self-inclusion in a banishment. This also reminds me too of, like, I'm going to say quote unquote magic gone wrong. Like, if you practiced with other people and like the magic went quote unquote wrong, it's like banishing oneself from that work. Also too, interesting perspective. If you've ever done work with another person and you do banish yourself from that work that was woven or was spun or was done, then no longer, how curious, no longer does your energy feed that work, which means no longer can that other practitioner feed from the life that you offered to them in that exchange. Haven't had that perspective before either. I think that was a necessary one for myself. So hopefully that helped you too. Interesting. That makes me feel a little bit more safe. Cool. Thanks for that. The Sacred Heart. So returning to this one, Sacred Heart, praises be Sacred Heart. Think about the room that you've made for yourself. It's like there's also that what I see is like it's like lava almost. It's like there's all of this concrete around a heart to protect it as the visual that I see. It's like concrete barriers and there's like for some people there's a lot of layers. Concrete energy around the heart to protect it. And now that the heart has had its time to like rest, recover and have those guards up, it's become a sacred heart. Not that the heart wasn't sacred before, but it's like the realization of the sacredness or the realization that the heart is a sacred being. And now that that's happening, there's like this heat returning. There's this heat returning to the heart. And what I see is the concrete barriers, they start to be melted from the inside out. Oh, wow. Quite curious. Interesting. Also taboo. What is it that you want to do that you're not supposed to do? What is it that you want to do that you don't think you should be doing? Oh goodness, what are you brewing? What is it that you are doing? What is it that you either are doing or want to do that you feel like you shouldn't be doing? A little bit more taboo, a little bit more out there. What is it that you want to do that you feel like you should not be doing? What would happen if you gave yourself permission to do that thing? Oh, what would happen? Well, what do you think? What would happen? What would happen if you said to yourself, hello, me, this thing that you're thinking about doing that you feel like you should not be doing, I give you permission to do that. Think about the freedom and liberation that yourself would feel. Think about that for a moment. What if you let yourself do, because that's the Sacred Heart, really. The Sacred Heart is like, I'm ready to start. I'm ready to start. Of course, the Sacred Heart, think about how logical our world is. Think about how hard the world is. Think about how harsh things can be in the world. Think about how cruel some people are, okay? Of course, there's barriers around it. But when the Sacred Heart returns and is melting these barriers, of course, the heart is going to want some things that are taboo or not supposed to be. But the heart, you can't control it. That's a part of the reason that in my opinion, at least, sometimes the heart and the head relationship can be a little bit frustrating is because you can't control the heart. You can think things and kind of control what happens in the mind sometimes, right? Like you can guide and direct. But with the heart, you have to just allow it to exist and you can resist it if you want to, but it will persist. 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 That's the strength of the heart is the persistence against the resistance that comes up. So with the Sacred Heart returning, the praises be, let the Sacred Heart be. There's also going to be some things that start to surface where it's like, I've told myself for a long time that I can't do this. I've told myself I can't be this person up here. My mind has been ordering and structuring things as needed. I've told myself I can't be that. I've told myself I can't do that. But my Sacred Heart, I really need to return to it. I really need to return to it. And this is where kind of the trust and the heart returns. Also, earlier, I was talking about the full moon that's happening in Cancer on January 13th, a return of the Sacred Heart and the story ending on January 13th. Throughout Capricorn season, the Sacred Heart returns. The Sacred Heart returns. What are you going to turn in? Turn in? Turn in. Turn into. It's like turn and then go. Turn and then go. What are you going to turn? What are you going to turn? What are you going to turn? Are there any dials? Are you going to turn anything up? Are you going to turn a color up? Are you going to turn the sound up? Are you going to turn your life in a direction? Are you going to turn it for me is like making a decision. How are you going to turn? Where are you going to turn? I know what this is for me. I know what this is for me. What do you feel like you should not be doing? Interesting. And what are you brewing? How do they go together? And what would happen if you just gave yourself permission to go do that? What would happen? Interesting. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it there. That was a good reading. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to sit with that one and digest it too. Wow. What do you not want to do? Interesting. Those final years of Pluto and Capricorn really were some harsh ones. They were some harsh ones. They were some harsh ones of like, get it together. Get it, be clever, get it together. Be clever, get it together. But now we're in a different energy. We're in a different energy. It's different. It's different this time around. Oh my goodness. We're done. Wow, we're done. We're done. Interesting. I like the spirit of that. That was a good closing for that reading. That was a good closing for that reading. You're telling me that the thing that I feel like I should not be doing that has caused so much pain over the previous years of my life actually is possible to sit in a safe way? Interesting. Okay. I'll receive that. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. So that's it. I love you too. I love you guys too. That's so good. Oh, there'll be a replay. 'Cause somebody said they came in right at the end. There's a replay that's up on YouTube. It's being recorded over here on YouTube. So yeah, but that's it for now. That's interesting. That's it for now. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep doing what you need to do. Keep up your brew as you need to. I'm going to go do the other things I need to do as I do. That's true. And thanks for the support and for being here. So good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So good. So good. And I'll talk to you soon. That's true.